Hello and welcome to Positively United today, Wednesday, the 11th of February 2026. And here are my 5 lessons, the 5 lessons I've taken from the hard-won 1-1 draw against West Ham at the London Stadium last night. A little bit of preamble before I get to the 5 lessons. You know what? At the end of the season, when we're 1 point ahead of Chelsea and we're in 4th place and we've qualified for the Champions League, we might look back at last night as the moment it all happened. There are loads of examples in the time I've been watching United when United have been successful that you just don't look at the big games. You just don't think back to the victories against Arsenal or Newcastle or Chelsea or Man City. You look back at the scrappy 1-1 draws away from home at places like QPR and Fulham and stuff like that. You remember those moments. And last night, that Shesko goal, I don't know about you, but when it went in, I absolutely went nuts. I just absolutely exploded. And I guess it was because it was so late in the game. I guess it was because we'd had the Casemiro goal ruled off for offside. It was beautifully struck. It was a fantastic goal. So that was worth celebrating in itself. But it also felt like a really important point. Now, should it have been 3 points? Not necessarily. I think I said in the in my video where I predicted the starting 11, I was quite nervous about the game against West Ham because it seems to be a tough ground for us anyway. And Nuno Espirito Santo has done a great job over the last several weeks, organising and structuring that side to turn it around. Essentially, I think they'll save themselves. I think they'll stay in the Premiership. I don't think Nuno's the kind of man who's ever going to win a Premier League, unless he does a Leicester. But he's a damn good choice if you are a sort of mid-table team who doesn't want to get relegated and who wants to have a chance of punching a little bit above its weight. Look at the job he did at Nottingham Forest. Still can't believe that Nottingham Forest contrived to get rid of him, by the way. Look what he did at Forest. It's quite magnificent what he did at Forest. And look what he did at Wolves whilst he was there. I think he's a really good manager with a ceiling which is, I don't know, 6th place, 5th place maybe. But he is a manager who is a cut above quite a few of the names that are mentioned as sort of like managers that are brought in to save a club when they're bottom of the league in December. I suppose what I'm saying is better than like a manager like Daichi, who's brought in to, save Forest. I've got a lot of time for Nuno. I really do. I think he's an excellent manager. And the way that West Ham played against United yesterday really showed his strength. That was a totally well-drilled, well-organised West Ham. They knew exactly what they were doing. They were so disciplined. And so reserved. They knew what they had to do and they did it really well. And the big issue last night was United didn't have the answers. And that is something that they're going to have to address. And it's something that Carrick is going to have to address. But all things being considered, that was a valuable point. And perhaps that's the way we should look at it. Okay, let's move on to the 5 lessons. So the first one for me is Carrick's first 11 side a bit too settled now? So when I've been doing my first 11 predictions for the last 3 games, I have been, on the one hand, predicting that Carrick won't change his first 11, and he hasn't, but also saying, but if I were Carrick, I would do this, that, and the other. And a consistent, for me, has been playing Shesko up front. Now, not playing Shesko up front has worked, because after all, we've beaten City, we've beaten Arsenal, we've beaten Fulham, and we've beaten Spurs. So why wouldn't the formula work again? Well, playing against West Ham yesterday, who were defending deep, defending in numbers, incredibly compact, incredibly disciplined, the deficiencies of Mbeumo as a centre forward, I think, showed. And actually, they showed so much, he got rotated out. There was an awful lot of rotation last night, by the way. I don't know if you noticed. Mbeumo ended up, well, he was on the left for quite a large period of the game, including in the first half. Cunha went up front as the forward. No more effective than Mbeumo was. Ahmad didn't go as the centre forward, but he wouldn't, would he? But yeah, there was a lot of rotation. I think the rotation was a realization that it wasn't working. And last night might very well have been Šeško's chance. It might have been a much better game for Šeško to play up front than either Mbeumo or Cunha. And I think it showed when he came on. We were so reluctant to change the game up yesterday as well. A little bit disturbing. But that might be because we just play the same 11 all the time. So I think the first takeaway for me is that side probably does, well, I think it definitely needs to change when we next play a game against Everton, isn't it? And I do believe that last night was probably the last time we'll see that settled 11 play, at least for a little while. I think it's time to mix it up. This is sort of related, but the second lesson, I think, is that we miss Dorgu, and we really do. And Shaw is not the answer to that, by the way. And I think there was an attempt yesterday to make Shaw the answer, and it just didn't work out. Now, Dorgu, over the games he was playing under Carrick before he got injured, genuinely looked like an out-and-out left-sided attacker or even a winger. He really was effective down that left. Last night, unless I'm mistaken, it's definitely in the first half, Shaw appeared to be more forward sometimes than Cunha, and more on the left than Cunha. Shaw played very high and very wide, but the problem was it showed up all of Shaw's deficiencies, or what have become his deficiencies. The number of times Shaw was in a position to cross the ball, and he's on the right side, on his left foot, he could have driven forward and crossed with his left. But as is the way of modern football, he constantly cut back on his right foot and then delayed. And usually by that stage, the opportunity of the cross had disappeared, and he ended up playing a really short ball to Mainu or Casemiro or Fernandes. Usually it was quite close to him, or even Mbeumo or Cunha. And all the momentum was lost. And that's what I think contributed in an awfully big way to just how slow and pedestrian that first half performance was. It was literal walking pace. The number of times that Maguire or particularly Martinez would end up with the ball and then stood still, rigidly still, looking around, scanning in front of them. And I don't know if you noticed with Martinez shouting out at players in front of him to move, to do something, to offer an option, and they didn't. Now, I'm not blaming it all on Shaw, of course not. But you saw last night a player at the end of his career in that position, and compare and contrast with Dorgu, who's a player at the very beginning of his career in that position. And wow, it was chalk and cheese, wasn't it? We miss Dorgu. We really do. Or we miss a player, and possibly we miss a player on both sides who can play as a genuine winger. Something I really miss in modern formations, I must admit. A player who can play genuinely wide, plays on the side of his strong foot, and is willing to cross with the strong foot. Because we certainly didn't have it yesterday. In fact, the only time we had it yesterday was when we scored the goal. Well, we had it when Xerxes almost scored with that header in injury time. So both the header by Xerxes in injury time and the eventual goal by Šeško, The goal by Shescu, Mbumo, wide right, crosses it in, we score. But we didn't seem to bother to cross until, 10 minutes before the end of the game? 20 minutes before? Something like that. So I thought it was a big factor in why we underperformed and were underwhelming yesterday. We missed Dorgu. Third, again related, is one of the reasons why our first 11 is now so settled is our lack of credible midfield options. We didn't substitute, did we, either Mainu or Casemiro yesterday? Wow. And neither of them were very effective. Neither of them were able to get the ball through the lines. They weren't able to make a pass that got through the congestion. It's probably Mainu's most disappointing game under Carrick. Because whilst all of his virtues in terms of his defensive capabilities, his ability to receive the ball, his ability to create time and space with the ball, he wasn't able to pass through the congestion. But then again, neither was Casemiro. And what we completely lack, of course, at the moment is a player to bring on from the bench, who can replace Casemiro or Mainu if it's just not working for them. And there's nothing wrong, by the way. This isn't a criticism of Casemiro or Mainu, but just sometimes it doesn't work. Paul Scholes used to get substituted after 60, 65 minutes if it wasn't working for him. It happens. But at the moment, what we've got to bring on instead of him is Ugarte. Ugarte wouldn't have broken the lines yesterday. He wouldn't have passed the ball through the congestion. And Tyler Fletcher, who might be a very, very good player in the making, but he's a good player in the making. He's a youngster. So a lack of credible midfield options definitely reduced our ability to change that game yesterday. And I'm sorry to harp back at it, but January was a missed opportunity. We could have got somebody, and we chose not to. I've just got a horrible feeling about that. I really do. Fourth, Šeško really does need to start against Everton. His minutes have been really restricted. And yet when he's been brought on, winning goal against Fulham, equalising goal that almost felt like a winning goal yesterday against West Ham. His goal-scoring record is actually pretty good in the minutes that he's been playing. And I think he should have started yesterday. I really do. I think he should have been on from the start. I said so in my team predictions. And I definitely think he should play in the next game. There's nothing to lose now. Who should come out to make space for him? Well, based on yesterday's performances, and this isn't picking on him, it's just observing the fact, our least effective forward player yesterday was Ahmad. Give him a break. Give him a rest. One game. Because then you can drop Cunha, or then you can rest Mbumo. You can make it out that you're going to rest one of these players. Alternatively, over the next few games. Rest Ahmad next game. Then rest Cunha. Then rest Mbumo. But get Šeško. Give him a run. Give him at least a game, but give him a run. Let's see what happens. Personally, I think he'd thrive on it. But we'll wait and see. But I really hope he starts for next game. And 5. Occasionally, I read people saying that managers and head coaches don't really make much of a difference. It's a bit of a myth. Managers and head coaches really don't do very much. If a team is successful, it's because of the strength of the squad and the structure around the squad and how well the club is run and all that kind of thing. And head coaches and managers are kind of like overrated. They don't really change things. Rubbish. Absolute total nonsense. And last night we had 2 examples that disproves that idea. First, Nuno. Nuno has transformed West Ham since he's become their manager or head coach. They're now a disciplined, well-organised side. I tell you what, we won't be the only team who struggles to score against them. If they play like that, they might not end up being... that first half was dull. Just deadly dull. West Ham did the job. They win at half-time, 0-0. Lots of people, including myself, were saying that one of the things United needed to do in the game yesterday was start quick. Ideally get an early goal, quieten the London Stadium fans, and so on and so forth. And West Ham probably knew that's what Manchester United wanted to do. But they absolutely snuffed that out. Now, West Ham before Nuno, under Potter, for example, that just wouldn't have happened. Managers do make a difference, and Nuno's made a huge difference to West Ham. And Michael Carrick has made a huge difference to Manchester United. I know a lot of people are disappointed about the performance yesterday. I am. But are you really disappointed with the point? Let's put it into context. Carrick is managed now in 5 games. City at home, Arsenal away, Fulham and Spurs at home, West Ham away. 13 points won out of a 15 possible. If you'd said to anyone before a single Carrick team had kicked a ball, and you gave them that fixture list of 5 games and you'd asked them to predict the number of points that Manchester United would have won at the end of a 5th game, do you think anybody would have said 13? Even the most rose-tinted, even the most positive of United fan, do you think anybody would have said 13 points? Nobody in their right mind would have said 13 points. I think, look, let's think of a realistic scenario. If Amorim had still been manager, might have drawn a home against City, would have lost away at Arsenal. That scrap we had against Fulham, draw or lose. Home against Spurs, well, they are pretty crap at the moment, so maybe we would have won that. That game yesterday, I think we would have lost it. So, draw, 1 point, defeat, home win. Sorry, the Fulham game probably would have been a draw. So 2 home draws, a home win, 3, 4, 5 points, and I think we'd have lost last night. I think we'd have got 5 points out of 15 under Amorim, and we've ended up with 13. If you look at the top of the table and you look at the form, we're the only team who are unbeaten in 6 games, the last 6 games played. Managers and head coaches make a difference. They make an enormous difference. It is no coincidence that Alex Ferguson won every single year, or almost every single year he was a manager at Manchester United. It's not a coincidence that Pep Guardiola wins wherever he goes. Whatever you think of the man, it's no coincidence that Arsenal was successful under Arsene Wenger. Managers make a difference. And sometimes you have to sack them to make a difference too. And that's why we got rid of Amorim. And it's why Tottenham have sacked Thomas Frank today. Yeah, so no more nonsense about managers and head coaches not making a difference. They do make an enormous difference. Okay, those are my 5 lessons learned from the game against West Ham. If you've got other lessons you think should be added to the list or are more important than the ones I've taken away, please add them to the comments below the video. If you've liked this video, please hit the like button. Click on subscribe if you like what I do on this channel. Hit the bell to be notified of upcoming videos. If you have a friend who you think would like this channel, let them know about the channel and encourage them to become a subscriber too. I've got an X account. The link to that is in the description. Please follow it. I've got far more followers on YouTube than X for whatever reason. Please follow me on X. I try to post there every day and more than once a day. Got a Ko-fi account. If you want to make a donation, the link is in the description. But until that's the end of today's video, and until the next one, which will hopefully be out tomorrow, remain always Positively United.